Going on, everybody? Back for some college football. This will be for Thursday's slate. Got the three gamer. I know there won't be many live viewers here Wednesday night. Wanted to get this one out early. I mentioned in chat I will be at the Tech West Virginia game. Thank goodness. Didn't think I was going to find tickets there for a while. We'll be there tomorrow night and most of the day tomorrow, hopefully. And we're very excited for that one. Going to be a very fun game for us. Hopefully, it ends well for me. But wanted to get this out and give you all tonight and tomorrow to kind of listen through this when you have a chance. Think it's a very interesting slate in that, as all these small college football slates go, there's going to be some condensed ownership here. And it always pays off to pivot in these GPPs. Now, we don't have the biggest contest tomorrow, but definitely still some nice prizes up top. And forgive me if I have to stop for a couple minutes. Very congested here myself, but we'll get through it for sure. Also, I know last Saturday I went on the optimizer that I use, which is SaberSim, and started playing around with that with you guys to kind of show you how I go about building. And this week, I'm going to be doing that again for all the shows for sure this week, especially this one, as they just released, I think it was today, they released a big update that's going to be very, very big for college football. So just to kind of we'll get more into it after I kind of go through the games and some top plays here. But they have made it available more to be able to customize some groups and kind of key in some top players that to make some stacks. And what was happening to me specifically was that I was getting a lot of builds that weren't stacking the super flex because it was only stacking the first quarterback in. And if I had the second quarterback in, it wasn't stacking. Very easy fix now. So we'll go through that, and I'll kind of show you. We'll run some builds. The projections on our sheet are not up yet. I'll have those up either later tonight or early in the morning. And then we can import those in. But I did throw in some just random kind of projections now so that we can see how that works. So going through each game, spreads, just like we normally do. If you have any questions and you are watching live, go ahead and let me know, and I'll definitely get to those, whether it's about SaberSim or some particular games here. West Virginia, Virginia Tech, first game on the slate. The one that I'll be at tomorrow night, West Virginia comes in to Blacksburg as a 1.5-point favorite, 50.5 total. That's kind of the middle total game on the slate. If you look there on the sheet, you've got the Coastal Carolina, Georgia State game is the 62 total, biggest total on the slate. And then you've got Chattanooga, the FCS school there, versus Illinois in a 39 total. That's just brutal. So you got kind of three different tiers, completely different tiers of games. You've got the Coastal Carolina, Georgia State game, close spread, big total. Everybody's going to be jamming a lot of that game in there. Then you've got the kind of middle of the road game that usually on a 3-game slate might be the premier game, not on a big main slate, obviously. With that 50.5 total, but usually you'd be even more enthused to play that game if we didn't have this 62 total. Still think it's going to be a close game. Starcher and I were going back and forth in chat. I know he's the West Virginia guy. We've been giving him crap back and forth for a year or two now since we played them last year as well, getting back into that rivalry. They got the better of us up in Morgantown. Hopefully we can get the best of him here. But I do think it is going to be a close game. Not, if you've watched Virginia Tech this year, the offense has been horrendous, very, very bad. I do like some of the things that I've saw in the last couple weeks. It does look to me so far that Wells is getting a little more comfortable in the offense. We've had a couple guys that I'll get to that have emerged and just looking to get more playing time. We'll get into those guys at the receiver position. I think that that game makes for an interesting pivot at either one of your quarterback spots, or maybe you just go a little heavier on it. I'm not really sure yet how I will go, but for GPPs, I think that makes a lot of sense when everybody's going to be jamming Coastal and Georgia State. Now the third game is the 39 total. Illinois, pretty big favorites, 18. Still have a projected total for themselves right up there above the West Virginia and Virginia Tech um, team totals there. But this is going to be a very slow-paced game. Chattanooga has started the year. I know they obviously haven't played the competition of Illinois yet, but they are an FCS school who is 3-0. They have, I think it's Eastern Michigan's quarterback Hutchinson, who transferred in there and has looked decent so far this year. So they have a guy that knows this competition, at least running the show there at quarterback. Not really sure. I think they can keep it close somewhat. I don't think this is just an absolute roll by Illinois. I don't think they have the offense to do that. So we'll get into some plays now at the quarterback position. A lot of people and the cash build on these short slates usually does, but especially tomorrow, I think the cash build kind of builds itself. I mean, you're going to have some guys that are just absolute massive chalk. And to start at the quarterback position, it's going to be Grayson McCall, and even more so, Darren Granger, who is that's just a dumb price, 5,800. The guy has massive rushing upside. Can definitely get it done. I think he is probably the first guy in your cash lineup at the quarterback position. And then your super flex is almost certainly going to be Grayson McCall. I think in that high total, you just have to like both of those guys. And then what I was saying earlier, the pivots, if you want to take out a McCall or take out Granger and pivot to one of those guys in the West Virginia game, Grant Wells and JT Daniels make some sense there as a pivot. Very similar price. Daniels is going to throw it probably more with more volume. But Wells has a little more rushing ability. Daniels, as you can see, negative 19 rush yards on the year. He's not even outdoing his sack yardage there. Wells at least has 66 yards on the ground. I think it's a toss up there, whichever side of that game you like more. Tommy DeVito for Illinois. This is the second dumb price on the slate would be him. Not sure how he's the highest priced quarterback here. Love the rushing game for Illinois. I think they kind of pound the rock against Chattanooga. And we're going to want Chase Brown in our lineups, who's probably going to be 95 or more percent owned at running back at the prices that he's at. But that's kind of where I'm at quarterback. If you want the kind of chalk build, you're going to go McCall, Granger. If you want to pivot one of those, I think you go Wells or Daniels. I still do think it's a 2 quarterback slate. I think some of these guys have a very solid floor. McCall, he might be the first guy that I pull out of in GPPs as a pivot. He's been right around, as Dobe says, he is all Coastal has this year. And they have played in some close games so far. And he's been right around that 22 to 26, I think it is. Fantasy point, very, very solid floor. Makes him that good cash play. But one thing that we forget in GPPs is that, yes, McCall could still have a 24-point outing, very solid for cash, things like that. But in GPPs, if Daniels or Wells beats him by 0.1 points, I mean, you're ahead of the field in GPPs at a lower price. So maybe you could do more there. I think that's very in the cards. So in GPPs, I'm definitely going to make sure I get quite a bit of Daniels and Wells as a mix in there. And Granger will be probably my top quarterback exposure on the slate tomorrow. Moving over to running back. I mentioned Chase Brown, 6,900, just easily fits in your lineups. Not sure what else to say about him with the volume that he gets. 25 attempts a game so far through 3. even a little bit of work in the passing game, almost 2 receptions per game. Um, I just think they obviously run over Chattanooga. McCray, the number 2 guy there, is out, and you've got not a ton behind him. Uh, I think you just kind of jam him in. He's obviously my favorite play in that game, and probably the only guy that I'm even going to have exposure to in that game personally. Um, Keyshawn King for Virginia Tech, projected to be back in here, was a little limited last week, or may not even have played. 6,000. He's looked good to start the year. All reports seem to point that he's going to be back. Obviously, they still do split, but I do like King's upside here. You're going to see some Holston mixed in there, but Malachi Thomas is still going to be out. He was the guy that I expected to be the top back for them this year to start. Has not happened. Obviously, he's not even played. Holston and King are kind of, I expected them to be very similar, but King seems to have more upside, 7.6 yards per attempt so far this year. Both of those guys do get a little passing work, so I wouldn't hesitate in putting those guys in a lineup with Grant Wells. Um, Moving on down beyond that, you've got Reese White for Coastal Carolina. I think he makes some sense. And then you've got the Georgia State and CJ Beasley. Beasley had a very good game last week, and it was almost a thing. I think Reese White might have fumbled or something like that, and they just kind of moved to Beasley, rode the hot hand. I don't think it's a scenario where White just gets benched. So I would rank those coastal backs, White, and then maybe some Beasley. I'll be interested to see if Beasley comes in a little over on because of last week at 4,200. I still think he'll be fairly low though. Tucker Greggs, that Georgia State rushing attack. This is a team that likes to run the ball quite a bit, and he is their main guy. 52 carries through 3 games, couple touchdowns. 4,800, very, very fair price for him. And then Marcus Carroll would be the other one, 7.6 yards per carry, looking around 7 per game so far this year. Do like him as well. That's kind of it for running back. It's honestly Chase Brown and then whoever fits in that second spot. Keyshawn King would be my favorite number 2. Then probably Greg would be number 3 for me there. Holston would be a GPP option. Tony Mathis for West Virginia has not been their lead guy, and this is just a name match issue with no stats that I need to fix. Actually, their number 1 guy, and Starcher talked about him a little bit in chat earlier, has kind of been their guy, their bright spot to start the year, and he's listed as a receiver, is CJ Donaldson, 4,300. I think he fits very well in that cash game build. I was playing around with kind of what I thought the chalk build was going to be, and it's always good to do that so you know where you need to be pivoting, things like that. When it comes to GPPs, even if you're not playing cash. So CJ Donaldson is going to be pretty popular, I would expect. 9 or almost around 10 carries a game, almost 91 yards per game. Couple catches there in the passing game, but listed as a receiver, like we said, 4,300 on DraftKings is just way too low. So definitely like him. Now, as for your other actual receivers, there are some very good options here in this game, or on this slate. Bryce Ford Wheaton has been just a target hog for West Virginia so far. Really like him. 24 catches through 3 games, 4 touchdowns. So he would be probably the top option for me there. Isaiah Williams, I don't think I'm even going to get to him for Illinois. I might set a rule in the optimizer that if I have enough lineups to play Williams, that in those lineups that I don't play Chase Brown and just pivot there. But even in those, I'm not going to get to DeVito. So it's almost like a Isaiah Williams or Chase Brown type deal, and I'm going to side with Chase Brown pretty much every time. Sam Pickney for Coastal has stepped into a much bigger role this year. He would be the preferred pairing with Grayson McCall there. He's a very good option. And then you got Jamari Thrash would be the other uh, top three guy for me for Georgia State. Had a massive, massive game last week. I think it was over 200 receiving yards against Charlotte. So really like him down there at only $5,000. What this is what we get a lot of times in these short slates is that the top plays are just way underpriced. Um, just not sure how you get around that. Dove's mentioning Tyson Mosley. So we have three guys in the chat. Myself is the Virginia Tech guy. We've got Starcher as the West Virginia guy. And then we got Dove as the Coastal guy. And it just so happens that three of the six teams on the slate are those three teams. And I think that just sets us up for some smash winnings tomorrow. But Mobley, don't have him highlighted. He looks to be the touchdown guy. Yeah, you could mix him in, especially if you're going heavier on McCall. Definitely could get there. Sam James and Caden Prather are the other two for West Virginia. This is a very much a passing system for this team this year with the new offense. So both of those make quite a bit of sense as a second to Bryce Ford Wheaton, BFW, we'll call him. Caleb Smith for Virginia Tech is questionable. It looks to be pointing that he is going to play, but definitely need to watch that. I mentioned there were some spots last week that I was really excited about for Virginia Tech, and one of those was Jaden Blue, the transfer in from Temple, who has not had a good start to the year. I don't know if it's just the change of the offense or what exactly it is, but he was a guy coming into the year that I expected to be the top receiver for this team with kind of a depleted receiving core. And we saw last week, I know it's against Wofford, but he got an opportunity. He made the most of it, and now he's bumped up as a starter on the depth chart. And I expect some very, very good things from him going forward. That was all I wanted to see, that he was going to get the opportunity. So 5,100, he would be the top pairing for me with Wells. And then let's see, I'm just going to finish out Virginia Tech before I move on. But Nick Gallo, the tight end, has been the top target getter for Virginia Tech this year, and he's only 3,100. He would make a lot of sense in cash games, especially. But like I said, when I played around with builds, what it landed on was either Nick Gallo at 3,100 or CJ Donaldson at 4,300 for West Virginia. It was like I would have had to leave that much on the table. There was just not enough to pay for to get Gallo to play Gallo. So I didn't really see the point of leaving that salary and going to the tight end over a guy who we know is going to have some rushing upside there in Donaldson. So I do like Gallo, though, especially in builds with Grant Wells. The last guy, the one that I really, really think is going to be sneaky tomorrow. I know it was Wofford, but Christian Moss got a lot of opportunity last week for Virginia Tech early on in that game, not just late. Now, some of that might have been because Caleb Smith was a little limited, but I think Christian Moss, a guy with a team that is trying to find anything in this receiving core, with a lot of unknowns coming into the year, it's really just seeing who can step up and kind of take the reins here. And Christian Moss showed a lot last week, 5 for 50 in that game. And yes, that's his stats on the year. But if you look at per Pro Football Focus, they have kind of snap counts and targets and things like that. And I won't pull that up because I'm sure there's some copyright there, obviously, that they don't want out. And that's the reason we can't put them on our sheets. But Christian Moss, he didn't have any snaps in that first week. Did get a few against Boston College and then got quite a few last week. I think you can take a flyer on a guy like Christian Moss in a team that has a lot of uncertainty at receiver and hope that he gets the opportunity tomorrow and can break a big one. 5 for 50 was very, very good, very, very good sign for me. So I like him as a low on GPP option. Robert Lewis is the second guy for Georgia State. So he'll be in the pool. Definitely like Thrash more, though. Um, and then the last guy that I've got highlighted right now is Tip Riemann for Illinois. Not sure that I'm going to get there either, but 3,600 is a fair price for him as well. All right. So what I'm going to do is switch on over to Sabre, and I'm going to run some builds, add some rules in, just to kind of show you what we're looking at with these new rules. Let's see here. All right. So we've got the college football slate up here for tomorrow. Like I said, I threw some projections in to get the players that I wanted. I'm going to go ahead and filter this to only players that I have checked, so it's a little easier to see. So if you look over here on the right side of the screen on the lineup rules, so this is new. Most of the time you would have been, if you were setting rules, you were coming to build lineups and you were kind of setting something that didn't have that, if I play this person, then do this. So that was not a feature in SaberSim until today. So now what we can do, and this is very, very simple, you can do it one time for college football, and it applies one time for each slate, and it applies to all teams. And then you can go in there and manually take out a team if you don't want to stack a running quarterback with, in every lineup you play him. You can obviously take him out. But what we're going to do is add new rule, and this you can also do for NFL. This first part where you have rule type and then stack, this would be kind of what I'm going to plan to do for NFL. A little more than college football, because for college football you have to deal with the super flex, whereas for NFL all you have is the one quarterback. So you can say, if you're just playing the quarterback, then go ahead and stack him up. Whereas here I'm going to come over to groups, and then from there what I can do is either manual or automatic. And I like the automatic because it's going to, when I change projections, it's going to automatically filter any new players in these stack rules that weren't already in there before. So for like today, since I don't have the up-to-date projections in, when I go in the morning and update those, this should automatically feed in those new guys if there was anybody unprojected that I'm going. Yeah, definitely the best feature that they've added for sure. So after I choose automatic, what I can do here is in this box that says use, instead of use, I'm going to say if. So what that says is if you use at least one, and then I'm going to group that by team and uncheck everything but quarterback. And I have tried this out, and obviously this is brand new, but I don't need to check Superflex, and it will still apply to quarterbacks that go in the Superflex. From what I could tell so far. If at least one quarterback for the team is used, then use at least, and for college, I'm fine using one because these teams like to zero in on one guy a lot more than NFL. For NFL, you can go at least two or whatever if you're double stacking or whatever you may be doing. But at least one on the same team. And then I'm going to go uncheck quarterback, uncheck running back, and say I want at least one receiver with that quarterback. So then what I do is I come down here to save rule, and I've got 4 quarterbacks. Like I said, I'm planning on playing only those 4 tomorrow, and I'm going to save. You can save it as auto rule, but first, and this was a video that Sabre put out, they like for you to save as 4 manual rules first, just to ensure that the rules were set up right. So then you can come here. So Virginia Tech, if VT quarterback, then use at least one receiver, and you can check the edit box, and you can see there primary players would be Grant Wells. So if you're using Grant Wells, it's going to use at least one of Caleb Smith, Christian Moss, Jaden Blue, or Nick Gallo on that team. And I also obviously don't have clicked in there Dwayne Lofton, who I don't think it would be probably number 5 for me tomorrow, but you could definitely play him if you were stacking. So then I'm going to save that rule. Then I can come check the Georgia State. So it's saying if I play Darren Granger, then at least play one of Thrasher Lewis. So same there. Same thing with West Virginia. JT Daniels, then play at least one of BFW, Prather, and James. And then same thing with Coastal, as that only has Pickney in there right now because he's the only one I got checked. But that could obviously be one of the things that changes tomorrow. So once you save it as a manual rule, you're going to want to come down and edit the whole rule set, and then you've checked them. You come down to save rule and save as auto rule. So now once it's saved as an auto rule, then when I go in and update anything, like add in a new player. So for example, and this is my first check to make sure that this works. So I'm hoping this is the exact way that it works. But if I go in here and I find Dwayne Lofton, and he's not projected right now, but if I project him for 4 and he becomes checked there, I should have that automatically added to the rules. So I would have to move that back to recheck out of an automatic rule. So if I check now, yeah, Dwayne Lofton. So it worked kind of how I thought. So anybody then that you go in and add, if you want to late add somebody to the pool from one of those teams, it'll automatically add them to that rule set as long as it's set up as an automatic rule. So I'm going to go ahead and move that back to an automatic rule. So that's kind of the best feature that I've seen them add in a very long time. I'm just going to go ahead and run one quick build here just so we can ensure that it worked exactly how we said. This was what was happening a lot last time or before this, is we were getting the super flex not stacked, which is not what we want. Yeah, you can definitely do the run back rule too. And say that you want one from the other team as well. Definitely makes sense. All right, so first team that we got here, I'm going to change it to the whole pool over here. Granger, and he was paired up with Thrash, and then you had Grant Wells paired up with Jaden Blue. You also had Keyshawn King in there for Virginia Tech, and I mentioned I'm not worried at all about playing Wells with King, so I didn't see a reason to set the rule. Obviously, if it was a running back that you did not want to play with your quarterback, so like if you were playing DeVito for Illinois, and I mentioned earlier it's almost one of those things in that game that I want to play the passing game or the running game. So if I was stacking up DeVito, I would not want to play Chase Brown on that specific team. So I would just go back in to that rule set here, and I can show you what I would set up there. And you could have done this already within Sabre. You can come back to lineup rules, add new rule group. It is a little different because you can go over here now on manual rule and say choose the 2 players you don't want, or you can say automatic rule and then use no more than one. Let's see here. No more than one running back or wide receiver from, and you would save. Let's see. I don't have DeVito check, so that's not working. But you could do that and say, I don't want to play more than one running back or receiver from Illinois, and that would work for the rule. Or you can do it manually and say DeVito and Chase Brown, or earlier I mentioned Isaiah Williams and Chase Brown, and you want to say I want to use no more than one of those 2 guys. So you could do it either way. If you wanted a little more automated, you could do it the other way. You can also use the other automatic rule to say, I don't want to play more than one running back from the same team. There are a few teams that I'm not worried about that. Michigan in some spots makes sense. But that I think that would be an interesting one to do there. So let's go back at look at a couple more of these bills just to see what's coming out. Like I said, these projections are not um, up to date and are not the final thing here. But Grant Wells paired up with Jaden Blue, Granger paired up with Thrash again there. So it looks like it gave me. Let's see, Granger on every team, Grant Wells. Let's just do a Grayson McCall team. So Grayson McCall paired up with Sam Pickney. Grayson McCall with Pickney. And you can just see the nice correlation that you've got there. Love this new rule. It makes it very simple. I was talking to Chris earlier. It's been something that on Saturdays, with everything that we have going on Saturday mornings, we've got EPL early in the morning, and then after EPL locks, we usually do the college football show. And then once the college football show's over, I want to go ahead and get in on um, the rankings up on the sheet for you guys. And then once I do that, I have like 30 minutes to get the 20 max in or whatever I'm building for the day. And it's like, man, I just don't have time to fully edit and get exactly what I want. And then, sure enough, here we go. Saber puts this deal in where we can do the rules, and there we go. I can go do it a day or two before. As soon as I get the projections up, I can go in and say I want at least one with the quarterback and so on and so forth, and go from there. So that's all I've got. If you have questions, I'll be in the Discord most of the day tomorrow. Just make sure you tag me tomorrow in the Discord and the college football chat if you have questions to make sure that I see those. And good luck to everybody. Hopefully the Hokies bring it home tomorrow night. Let's have some takedowns in our chat. Good luck.